Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be talking about elements. So we're also going to be taking some notes on elements, and I'm going to show you what the goal is for our note page. We kind of want it to look something like this. Okay, I know you don't have printers, and that's completely fine. I'm going to show you how to take notes that look something like that on just a regular piece of paper. So this is the paper that I'm using. You can use notebook paper, any kind of paper you want to. Whenever we're through here, I would like you to take a picture of the notes that you took for me today, and I want you to upload it to this assignment so that I know that you took the notes, okay? I'll also have this already filled in copy uploaded with this assignment, okay? So you're not just going to be running loose, you know what I mean? Like, you'll have some options to find what we're talking about here, okay? So in order to make a piece of paper look kind of like that one, we're going to draw a little bit of a circle right here in the middle. Okay, so we got a little circle. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want you to be able to read what is in your boxes and your circles. Okay, so the circle right here, we're going to write elements inside. Okay, so there's elements inside our circle. Up on the top, we're going to have three boxes. So I'm going to draw a line all the way across the top and all the way across the bottom. And then I'm just going to turn that into three boxes. Okay, so we got one big box. There's two boxes. There's three boxes. Okay, that's perfect. So we're going to scoot down here to the bottom and do exactly the same thing. So we need three boxes on the bottom. We're going to draw this one across the bottom, down, 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 and then down on the end. So there you go. We have our note page, our elements note page, ready to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to put up here is the definition of an element. So if you were to look back in our files, you could find our vocab or in your assignment from Friday. And the vocabulary word element tells us that an element is a pure substance made of only one type of atom. So that's what we're going to put in this box right here. We know we're talking about elements because that's what we have right here. So we're going to write right here a pure substance made of only one type of atom. Okay, so there's your first box, all done. Okay, so the next box, we're going to write that atoms are the smallest particle of an element that keeps the properties of the element. So that's kind of a mouthful, so I'll write a little bit smaller here. But atoms are the smallest particle of an element that keeps the properties of the element. Okay, so if we get any bigger, if we start talking about compounds, that might change the properties. You know what I mean? So if we're adding more than one atom together, things could get different. Okay, but atoms are the smallest part of an element that keep the properties of an element. Really, I mean, atoms are made up of different things. They're made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And if you break an atom apart, you don't have the element anymore. You have protons, or you have neutrons, or you have electrons. So we'll talk more about atoms and things the older you get, but just so you know. Next box, we're going to write that elements are found on the periodic table. So elements are found on the periodic table. Okay, so if you haven't seen it yet, this right here is the periodic table of the elements. It is super cool, and we're going to be doing some fun things with this periodic table. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom, and we're going to talk about how these elements are represented on this periodic table. Okay, and if you notice something on this table right here, there's only 2 letters in any of these chemical symbols. Okay, so these big letters in the middle, those are all called chemical symbols, and that is how these different elements are represented. If you look, the first letter every single time is going to be a capital letter, and sometimes, like these ones up here, you only have 1 letter and it's always capital. Okay, so all these, only 1 letter, it's the first letter is always capital. Okay, well, if you look right underneath there, we've got a whole bunch more that have way more than just 1 letter, right? So all these have 2 letters, but that first letter is always still a capital letter. Okay, so we're going to talk about that right here in this box. So we're going to write that an element is represented by a chemical symbol, and a chemical symbol begins with a capital letter. So an element if you remember, a chemical symbol is one of your vocabulary words. And then down here, we're going to say a chemical symbol begins with a capital letter. Okay, that's good information to have. Okay, so in these next 2 boxes, we're going to be talking about some examples. So I'm going to write examples right there. Okay, the first example we're going to talk about is hydrogen. So up here in the top corner, here's the whole thing. Right up here in the very top corner, we have hydrogen. So if you notice, hydrogen is represented by just a capital H. So we're going to write that down here as our first example. Hydrogen capital H. Uh-oh, my lights just went off. Come on, lights. There we go. Now we can see again. The next one we're going to talk about is oxygen. And oxygen, we need oxygen to breathe. And oxygen is on here way over on this side. See oxygen right there? We've got an O. Okay, so oxygen is represented with a big capital O. So that's the next one we're going to write down. Oxygen. A capital O. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is nitrogen. So let's see if we can find nitrogen. So when you're looking for elements, I always start at the top and I move to the right. So I start at the top left and move to the right. Let me know when you see nitrogen. Oh, right there, we've got a capital N, and this one says nitrogen right underneath it. So nitrogen is represented by the chemical symbol N. Okay? All right, the last one we're going to talk about for this box right here is carbon. So let's look at our periodic table here. Let's look for carbon. So like I said, we're going to start up here on the top left, and we're always going to move to the right. Okay? Next one down. Oh, and right there it is. There's carbon. So carbon is represented with a capital C. So we'll write carbon here and a capital C. Okay, and just for the sake of coolness, these 4 elements right here are the most common elements here on Earth. So these are the 4 most common elements. Okay. All right, one more box to go, and then we're done with our note page for the day. We've got some more examples. So we'll write examples over here again. If you notice, all of these chemical symbols are only 1 letter. Okay, now we're going to talk about some elements that have a chemical symbol with 2 letters. Okay, the first one we're going to look at is sodium. And sodium is represented on this periodic table with 2 letters. So let's start looking. You know, we always start at the top over here and move to the right. I'm going to get a piece of paper so it's easier for us to look. I would recommend you get a piece of paper when you're looking on here too. Let's see if you can find sodium anywhere. Let's just keep going. Oh, there it is right there. So sodium is represented by a capital N and a little a. So I'm going to put that right here, a capital N and a little a. Okay? The next element we'll talk about is iron. So I'll write iron right there. And iron is going to be represented by 2 letters as well. All right, so let's see if we can find iron on our periodic table. I have my paper sitting on top so it's easier to look. It's not on the first row. Let's look on the next row. Nope, I don't see it there. We're just going to keep looking. There's sodium and magnesium, sulfur. All right, we're going to keep on going. Oh, look, there it is. There's iron right there. Iron is represented by the chemical symbol Fe. So we've got a capital F and a lowercase e. Okay, the next one I want to talk to you about is gold. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about gold. When I was in 6th grade, we were learning the same things that you're learning right now, and I was in 6th grade a long time ago. But my teacher told me about the chemical symbol for gold. Gold, the chemical symbol is AU. So instead of messing around looking for gold, I'm going to finish this story. So she said that the chemical symbol for gold is AU, and I've always remembered that because she said, AU, give me some gold. And I've always remembered it ever since then. So whenever you think gold and you want to think the chemical symbol on the periodic table, you can say, AU, give me some gold. Kind of funny, right? Okay, the last one we're going to talk about is copper. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down, C-O-P-P-E-R. Okay, and let's go ahead and hunt it down on this periodic table too. So I'm going to bring the periodic table over here, and I've got my other piece of paper that I'm going to lay over top of it because it's just easier this way. Man, I would recommend you do this every time, okay? And I'm going to start on the upper left and go across, and we're looking for copper. I don't see it yet. We're just going to keep going down one line at a time. Copper, copper, copper. Oh, that was loud. You see it yet? Oh, there it is. So copper is represented by the chemical symbol Cu. So we have a capital C and a lowercase u. Okay? So there is your notes. Remember to go ahead and take a picture of your note page, upload it with this assignment so that I know that you got these notes and you'll know what we're talking about when we talk about elements. Okay? Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in a little bit.